Hello everyone. I'm Abhishek, your host for today in this webinar. Welcome to our webinar about money and housing tips for international students in Australia. So, we know starting your studies in a new country can be exciting and challenging. So, guys, we are here to help you prepare today. We we have two experts here to guide you through. Let's wait for 5 minutes more to join more attendees and then we can start. Till the time everyone is joining, guys, can you tell us where all of you guys are from, or which university you all are applying? Hi Lokesh. Hi Farid. Nice to have you. Hi Akib. Hi Jagdish. And we have hi Lekha. We have participants. Hi Shweta. Nice to have you. Hi Jay. Hi Nandesh. Great having you here. Guys, we are opening chats for everyone. So let's wait for 2 minutes more, then we all can start. Hi Jay. Yes, we are starting in next 2 minutes. Just give us 2 minutes more, and then we all are good to go. Hi Anto, how are you? Hi Arpita, hi. Okay guys, so welcome to this webinar of financial planning and accommodation tips for the international students who are going for Australia. So today we have two experts to guide you through. Firstly, our first panelist is Surbhi Dheer. So Surbhi brings over 8 years of experience in the accommodation industry, like assisting over 10,000 of students in finding their ideal accommodations. And she has deep expertise in the Australian study abroad market. So welcome, Surbhi. Pleasure having you. And our second panelist is Naveen Chaudhary. Like Naveen has experience of more than 4 years in the study abroad industry, educating students on how to plan their journey, and has interacted with more than 5,000 students going across the globe. Welcome, Naveen. Pleasure having you here.
Thanks, Abhishek.
Yes, guys. So let's start this most awaited session today. So we will start asking each expert some important questions, and after that, we'll pick and answer your questions, guys. So just type them in the chat, and we'll do our best to help you all. Right? So it's like so before you pack your bags and book your flights, when is the right time to start looking for accommodation in Australia? Like, what's the best timing? So if you could please put some light on this.
Sure, Abhishek. First of all, thank you for having me here today. Pleasure to be a part of this webinar. And to answer your question, when is the right time to book your accommodation? So I think looking at the current situation in Australia, right now is the right time to book your accommodation. And I understand students will why we should book the accommodation so early. So I'll give a brief on this. So I understand that you guys must be in the assessment stage right now where you have not got your offer letter and maybe you have not even applied for your visa. But looking at the current situation and Australia market, we should book the accommodation as soon as possible. And regarding your visa and offer letter, I think 90% of the properties in the market now they have this no visa, no pay policies and no offer, no pay policies in place. So students don't have to worry about, letting their money go waste. I think they are in the better hands. Properties have their policies in place. Students need to be stress free. I think they should book their accommodation as soon as possible without taking any more stress. And booking early is important because getting good deals, getting economical options, right now is I think it's the right time for that. So if you'll ask when is the right time to book accommodation, right now, if you have got your offer letter from the university. So while speaking to the students, I do tell them, if you have finalized your university, then I don't think there is any point in delaying or booking your accommodation.
Okay, great. Thanks. So, finding a place to live is exciting, but can be daunting, right? So, how can you avoid a lot of scams and find a safe, affordable place? If you could please guide on that, especially on a student budget, if I would particularly say it.
Okay. So yeah, scams are happening these days, and even I have heard about few of the cases, but not this year. I think this year I would say it was more organized. I think there are policies where because of that, I think there are less scams overall. But yes, to save from scams, I think what a student can do is research before booking your accommodation. If a student has done a prior research and read about their city, the cost of living in that city, nobody would be able to fool you so easily, right? And if you're booking through an organization, I would say go to their reviews, go through their website thoroughly, and understand how their organization works, understand their policies, understand their read about their FAQs, what is going to be the cancellation policy, what is the refund policy. So whenever you're booking an accommodation, I think going through all the policies is very much important, and not just booking anywhere. And if you're talking about scams, Abhishek, I think scams is not only those situations where somebody has taken your money and vanished. There are second level scams as well, where I think misleading information or incomplete information is being given to the students, which in the end they think that I was scammed, I was not given all the required information initially, so students feel cheated in the end. But for that, I have a suggestion for all the students. What they can do is, for example, if they have finalized a property, don't think too much before asking a question. So no question is a stupid question. Whenever you're taking assistance from an expert, ask them about everything, starting from the inclusions, what is included in my rent, then facilities, then about all the policies including cancellation policy, refund policy. And once a student feels that okay, I feel satisfied, I've got all my questions answered, I think the property I'm going to book, it has all the required features that I was looking for, then I think they can book their accommodation. So you can obviously try your best to save from scams. Go from a reputed organization, book from a brand which is in the place in the market since years. Do not just refer any of the websites. I won't name any of the websites here. Students are smart enough to go to different websites and understand. But booking through a brand will definitely save them from a scam. That's what I feel.
Great, Surbhi. It's a great insight. Guys, if you're finding this insightful, please give the thumbs up on the chat room, right? So, Surbhi, there are various options like living with a local family, sharing an apartment, or staying on campus, right? There are various options. So,
Right.
how do these choices affect your experience, and what tips can you give international students when making this decision?
Right, Abhishek. I think a lot of students must be thinking about this, and they must be having in mind where to book and which one should we prefer. So you have mentioned about local families, apartments, and on campus. Okay, I'll start with local families. So staying with the local family, it involves luck. You could be lucky enough to have somebody, a family where you could adjust with them, and unlucky enough to never adjust with them. So staying with a local family involves luck, I would say. I've seen some cases where students were fine enough throughout the year, but I've seen some cases where they did not got adjusted with them initially, and then they end up changing their accommodation. So staying with local family involves risk, and if you are a risk taker, then go for it. Next, you mentioned about private apartments. So private apartments equally, I think, requires a lot of groundwork. I mean, you have to check each and everything. So when you're booking something private, you are dealing with just one landlord, right? Makes sense? So when you're dealing with one landlord, you need to check everything, all the facilities, what all things are included. Do they have any curfew timings? What are the payment terms? This is very important. Understanding payment terms from landlords is very much needed, because every landlord, they have different payment terms with them. They might not have fixed payment plans, how they're taking the payments with you, what is the frequency of the payments, be it monthly, fortnightly, or are they taking the entire rent in advance? If they're taking entire rent in advance for apartments, do ask them for proper contract. So for apartments, I think contract is much needed. Read the contract, read everything. You sign the contract, the landlord needs to sign the contract. But I would still say signing up an apartment is not that, I think I won't recommend that much, looking at the risk involved, especially if you're traveling for the first time. But looking for apartments, if you've already stayed for your first year in the, university, and for next year, by, looking at the apartment yourself, meeting the landlord in person, having a face-to-face discussion, and then signing up a contract I think it's better than booking your accommodation for first year in an apartment. It involves risk, right? So third, you mentioned about on-campus. On-campus is something which I recommend to first years, and universities also recommend on-campus accommodation to their first year students. Why? Because they're traveling to the city for the first time. They have no idea how the city works, what are their, cost of living. So I think when university is involved, and why they are stressing enough, okay, stay on campus if you're coming for the first time, it's important, right? So I agree. I think for the first timers, definitely on campus is required. But here there's one challenge. On campus gets filled very quickly, right? Because university also has limited places, and there are a lot of students coming in to study. And in that case, these off-campus PBSAs are getting very popular these days. If you check the different websites, so what is the difference between on-campus places? On-campus, obviously. Yeah, on campus is usually managed by university. It's under the supervision of universities. And off campus PBSAs are similar buildings, but with better infrastructure, modern buildings. Facilities are almost like, the policies are almost same. Bills are included, hassle-free stay. You don't have to worry about.
Shilpi, I guess you are on mute. Yes, thank you.
Okay, so I was on campus and off campus thing. I was saying that on campus gets filled very quickly. So in that case, students can prefer off campus PBSAs, right? And the difference between these two, which usually students ask from us, is on campus is under university supervision, and off campus buildings are, similar buildings but with better infrastructure, modern buildings, more facilities, gym, swimming pool. I think these days these PBSAs are getting very popular among the students. Students totally rely on them. Somebody is there to teach them throughout the year. So I think off campus has been very popular these days among the students. So families, private apartments, on campus, and I've personally added off campus because on campus gets so loud. So my preference would be on campus if you manage to get a place there, and then off campus PBSAs.
Okay, great. It was a great insight. Guys, so before jumping to the next question, I would like to you guys to just quickly answer a poll that is just flashing on your chat room, right? So it could be helpful for us to guide in a more better way. Right, so I'm waiting for 10 seconds. Yeah. Your visa status currently. So guys, have you applied for your visa, or are you waiting for your visa, or still you don't have applied it?
What are you saying?
Okay, so we are jumping on to our next question. Right. So Surbhi, it was really insightful that you have told about on campus and off campus. Right. So also there is, moving into your new home is a very big step if you have to make a decision. Like, what advice can you give students regarding signing leases, dealing with landlords, and making their transition smooth? Right.
Thanks for asking this, Abhishek. I think I've already answered your landlord thing before even you asked.
Yes.
So, yes, landlord, I think I've covered. And advice, I have a lot of advice for the students. I can go on and on, but I think right now, being an accommodation expert, I would definitely, would suggest to book accommodation early. And I don't want you to book accommodation just in a day or so. I want my students to do their own research, understand the city, understand the cost of living, understand which property you're signing up for, because end of the day you guys are signing up for 6 months and 12 months contract. So book your accommodation once you're 100% satisfied. Okay, I'm signing up for this and I really like the property, and then sign up for it, right? So major advice would be do your own research, right? Speak to the people. So always book an accommodation where you have one person involved, right? When you have one person involved who is available to take your calls and take all your questions and answer them quickly, it's very important that you can to have that person. You can rely on them. You can call them anytime. Okay, so you can ask them any kind of questions. What time should I check in? What things should I pack? So having one person uh, and booking an accommodation which is like in abroad where you have not been to that country, and that was one person will play a major role. So find that good one person or good organization, I would say, where you can rely. There are good brands in the market who are actually assisting the students very well from end to end, starting from day one till the time they check in. People are involved and they are assisting very nicely in a nice manner. So find that person, do your own research, and before moving to the city, read about that city, right? So if you're going to, let's say, Melbourne, read about Melbourne as much as you can. Having that prior knowledge will make you feel settle down in that city, as compared to if you'll not read about that city, you'll feel okay, where am I, I don't know anything about city. But if you'll read enough about that city, you'll have that knowledge in your mind. Okay, so I know these things about the city. So reading about the city, having a good person to deal with who can assist you with the accommodation, then understanding the universities. Okay, so the other day I was talking to this student. She has paid the tuition fee last week for Macquarie University. And well, we have a very good conversation. So she was like, I have paid the fee for Macquarie University, but I did have an offer for UTS, Sydney, University Technology City.
Okay.
So she said, I have paid the fee now, but I'm still confused. So I said, don't be confused. It could be that UTS or any other organization or any other university would be more reputed, but that depends on your course, which university is suitable for you. She was doing a specific course where I think Macquarie University is more, relatable as compared to UTS. So when I spoke to her and made her understand it's not about the university, it's about the course you're going for. So why I'm stressing enough on this, because students usually get very confused. Okay, I've got offer letters from these three universities. Now, which one should I accept and go ahead with? So that totally depends on the course you are going for. Read about it and then finalize your university. So don't waste the entire month in thinking I've got three universities. Where should I pay the tuition fee? This will only delay the process. So let's not delay the process. Finalize your university ASAP. And as soon as your university is finalized, book your accommodation. Because the only thing that you need to think about after finalizing university is accommodation. Looking at the accommodation crisis going on in Australia, guys, read about it. It's all legit. Since I've been assisting students since years, it's proper accommodation crisis, and specifically in few cities in Australia. If I have to name them, it's going to be Perth, Canberra, and at the same time Sydney, where they have very limited options. You don't have many options to choose from. So read about it. I'm sure the more you read, the more you'll get the insights of it. So understanding the market, reading about your university, choosing the university as per your course, then finalizing appropriate accommodation, and then applying for visa. So go step by step, and follow the process. I'm sure there won't be any situation where you'll feel, okay, I'm confused, what I've done, or this and that. When you properly read about things, I think you understand, and then you end up at a right place.
Great, great. Thanks, Urvi. It's really insightful. Guys, if you are finding this meaningful, please give a thumbs up on the chat room, right? So now let's hear from our financial expert, Naveen, right? So, guys, money matters and is crucial when studying abroad, right? So, Naveen, I have a first question for you is when planning your studies in Australia, what are the key financial aspects to consider? And how can students create a budget that suits their needs?
Thanks, Abhishek, for having me here today. And I welcome everyone on board today for this seminar. Indeed, planning studies abroad is a very key financial aspect, wherein the budget plays a major role here. So I would like to highlight a few points here, wherein the students should keep these things in mind before planning their study abroad. So starting the main factor which comes here is money. What keeps in our mind, because money is everything when you plan to study abroad. You should have a proper planning, a proper structure, that if you are going and spending money, you should have adequate funds in your account. So the first thing, like your tuition fee, research about these things with your folks, with your universities. You have access to Google. Make sure you know how much is your tuition fee, complete full year tuition fee. uh, the cost of living in Australia is considerably bit high, like in cities like Sydney and Melbourne. So these are kind of high paying cities. So a student should calculate their monthly expense, including their rent, their food, transportation, etc. There are a lot of things. That their visa cost plays also a major role here. How much they are being charged for visa. I see a lot of questions regarding visa, so which is parallelly disturbing students whether they should book accommodation or not. So I would like to say that just go ahead with the accommodation. Visa is always a last minute thing that you get the result. But if you are, strategically you have submitted your documents, you have adequate funds, then you're ready to go. You're 99% there are cases that your visa will be there. So we should not hold ourselves and have that mentality that I'll have the visa first and then I'll go for accommodation. Then you will end up paying more, and your budget, which we are stressing on, goes it disturbs. Right. Then there are some tips for creating these budgets. Like we should be realistic on spending money there. We should, as we are going to a new city, we are all are excited. We all want to travel, eat. So we should not go and get in the flow in these things. Create your budget, review your budget, prioritize your spending, differentiate between what you want and what is your need. Last point I would like to highlight is seek financial advice from your seniors, maybe, or if you are connected with any reputed institute which should be highlighted, and keep do research on Google, and then plan your budget. I think that would be the thing.
Great, 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 Naveen. It's quite insightful. So, guys, before jumping to next question, we have one poll here. So just please quickly answer it, right? I believe. So, which offer letter have you received? Like it's conditional, unconditional, or are you guys still waiting for your offer letters? We are waiting for 10 seconds here. Guys, everyone, please vote so that we could help you in a more better way. Okay. So Naveen, it's quite insightful, like what you have said. So my next question is, studying is expensive, right? And how can international students make the most of scholarships, part-time work, or loans to ensure their finances are in order while they are in Australia or they are just planning for it? right? If you could please some light on this.
Certainly, a very good question. I would like to just say that in my every question, you'll see I'll more put focus on budget money, because if you're talking on a financial aspect, you'll hear more of these things. Let's not be get scared from this thing, but considering it's a very important thing for us if you're planning abroad, and especially in Australia, these things are pretty expensive. So
Right.
I would start with discussing on scholarship. So there are a couple of kind of scholarship like your research scholarships. I would say just scroll or browse your university's website. You'll see that they have a lot of things, scholarship, depending on their study programs offered by them. Generally, we tend to ignore and do not read these things on the website, but these universities' websites are undoubtedly very good content they have for students, which will help them. And again, there are merit-based scholarships like your merits in your colleges and your what you got your results in colleges, schools, so that they can significantly reduce your tuition cost. That's a very important thing when it's come. If I being as a student, I would definitely want some concession on my tuition fee, as considering for undergraduates the cost is for 20 to 25,000 AUD, and even for the postgraduate it goes above. So definitely we should all pitch in and act wherein we can save money by any means. Then part-time work is, I think, the most exciting thing. Whenever we think of going abroad, we want that we should earn something, and without taking anything from your home. We should be independent once we land there. So students should research before going there. How many hours, for example, 40 hours per fortnight, they are allowed to work in an academic year. The Australian people, the authorities are very strict on if you do not surpass the exact working hour, desired working hours. That's kind of illegal. We should not get flowed away that we should, and forget that we're basically here for studies, not exactly for earning money there. But yeah, it's a very good and motivational tool that students can earn alongside and for these things. Talking about the education loans, I guess this is the most preferred thing for all the students going abroad. And I think government banks are the best choice for taking these loans. I'll say Bank of Baroda for an example. You can go for this bank. Their interest rates are very low for students. But considering the fact your all documents should be right up to the mark, there are not even 0.1% exceptions by the bank on this. So government banks are best. You can the second thing wherein you can arrange money is borrow funds, maybe from your relatives, from your friends. We have a good circle in our relative wherein we can borrow funds from there. Every penny counts. This way you can balance your loans.
Yes, yes.
Because once we land there as a student, no one would want that pressure from the first day that yes, I have to repay that. I have a strong, this thing on my head.
Okay.
I think that's these things students should keep in mind.
Okay, so since we are talking about part-time jobs and everything like that, so balancing expenses can be challenging, right? So can you give some practical tips and to help students to save money and make wise financial decisions, while during their time in Australia?
Exactly. Again, we will start with budget. That's again a very important aspect here. So create. I would say create a chart. Jot down these points that yes, once I'll be there. What are my everyday expenses? If I talk about the second important thing is your food. Instead of I personally, if I go, for example, Sydney, I would like to explore the restaurants there. And in my maybe from the initial times, but keeping in mind these things are also expensive. I'm there as a student. I've not yet started earning also there. So I would say start cooking at home. Take some lessons before going, that how to
Right.
cook your food there.
Right.
We Indian people generally need some preferable food which will not maybe find in Australia. Use public transportation instead of cabs, buses. That's very important. But that's also a unique new experience for students. In India, we generally avoid these things, but the experience abroad is very good. Even
Right.
we talk with students every day. I personally have relatives there. They say that they prefer buses over their own personal cars for traveling. It's very convenient. You are not stuck in heavy traffic. Important thing would be I think student discounts. That's all a major aspect for a student. You'll see in every store that there is a special student discount for these students. You get to save money there. Everywhere you go, you have student discount. Make sure you have your student ID with you in order to avail those discounts, maybe on transportation, entertainment, or any other these things. I think, and have a track on your spending. Maybe make a weekly budget or a weekly progress report that this much of money you have spent on these things. Segregate these things. We have apps nowadays who keeps a track of our funds, that this much we have spent on these things. If it's going good, really great. If you are overspending, where I have to cut down the expenses. Last, I would say keep some emergency funds with you, which you are especially not aware of. Just forget that you have an emergency fund with you. Just keep them, then yeah, at that point of time, I have to save it. Avoid credit. Avoid credit. But again, we are already on loan, and again you take double credit. So instead of studying there, you'll always think of that I'll have to repay money. But there's already there would be a lot of stress on my head. So yeah, I guess these points will definitely help the students.
Great, Naveen. Great. It's quite insightful. Money, banks, and taxes can be confusing for students in a new country, right? So, how can international students can navigate these financial aspects and ensure that they stay on the right side of Australian regulations? If you could please put some light on this.
Yes, very yeah, sure. Very important point. When we're in India, also when we come under a taxable income, it takes a lot of time for us also to understand how the tax system works. Say likewise, when you go abroad, you start working, you have part-time jobs. It's important to understand their rules and regulations. It's not, we cannot delay, like we have a natural habit of delaying things being an international student. So there it will help us to be on our toes. We cannot take anything lightly there. Okay, so starting with a bank account, this is, I guess, the first and foremost thing you should have before going there. With now trending with the new environment, you can also open your bank account before you go to Australia. Just by just sitting in India, you can have your bank account open. It would be a digital bank account. And like if I want to say, give an example, that there's a Revolut bank account who is very famous amongst students. Very safe. They have tie-up with the top-notch bank accounts wherein their funds are safe. So it's better you are prepared before landing Australia. So you'll be having your debit card, you'll having your funds in account. So you don't have to stress about anything. You don't have to stress about the currency exchange rates. All are being taken care in advance. If you plan, if you think that I'll go there and then I'll open an account. Again, I'll give an example of Commonwealth Bank. It's also it's a general bank which is also very famous amongst the students. Majority of them which we interact with have both of these bank accounts. So I would prefer, I'll say that have a digital and a normal bank account with you. There is no costing involved here. So I don't see any issue with having these bank accounts. I would say choose a right bank with good interest also. And Make sure there are no fees for students. I personally, if I'm a student, I would not like to give any kind of fee. Wherein I also tend to save this money. Right. So choose the right bank. Part-time work, if your visa allows it, consider part-time work to supplement your income. Many universities also give you job centers, on-campus employment. Understanding taxes, if I talk about, familiarize yourself with Australian tax system. You may need to file a tax return if you're doing any job. Seek assistance with Australian taxation officer, which is ATO, or any tax professional. Like we have our CAs in India, we generally keep a tab. We discuss with them. Just find the same professional there in Australia. We have Google for this. Or in today's time, we can have A to Z knowledge of these taxation systems without even paying to anyone. Just read, just sort of scroll, browse through, you'll get everything there.
Right.
The new last I would say is the currency exchange, which is generally an issue for the students. I would say exchange rates play a very vital role, wherein a student can be, I would say, fooled easily, because generally we are not aware how an exchange rate systems work, how an IBR online Google rate works. So just get associated with a good reputed company. Just do not go online randomly or any website and pay something. Go there, physically meet, have some sessions, Google yourself, or talk to I would say parents have their own, managers there in the banks. Just yeah, take guidance from them, how much exchange rate you are paying, how much the service fee, taxes you are paying on anything. But just keep a tab of everything, these things, and I guess you will be good to go.
Great, great, Naveen. Like it's very insightful. So, guys, please give the thumbs up. Right? I guess it's very insightful for all of us. And I would like to thank Naveen and Surbi for sharing their wisdom here. So, like now, next moving to our next question, next part. So it's your turn, guys, to ask questions. So you can just type them in the chat box, and we'll try to answer them. And our experts will pick them up and just give answers of all of your questions. So we can just start it. Yeah. And don't be shy. Yeah, your questions are very much important. So you can put them in the chat box.
Abhishek, I can see some accommodation related questions. So
Yes, yes.
I think I'll pick them first. So somebody is asking, which area do I prefer for accommodation, city center or suburbs? So I think answer to this would be nearby university. If you're going to stay in suburbs, I'm sure you're going to spend a lot on transportation, but that totally depends on the cost you're planning to spend on accommodation. Because accommodations which are situated in city center are a little on the higher side, but again, very near to the universities, majority of the universities. And if you plan to stay in suburbs, less expensive, but again, transportation cost needs to be incurred. So you need to compare both the situations and then take the final call. I think a lot of students are asking, I've got offer letters from 2 universities. Which one should I go for? I think I've already answered it. I'll repeat it. So basically, that depends on the course. So if you're going for example, if I'll take a situation, if you're going for your management course in Sydney, I would recommend Macquarie. But then if you're going for engineering or information technology course, I would recommend UTS. So that totally depends on the course you're opting for, that decides your university.
Abhishek, I can see one question that how many required emergency funds can you suggest me? See, I cannot share the exact amount, how much emergency funds there should be. It's very difficult. It depends on individual to individual, but I would say it is not, emergency funds are not related to your tuition fee or anything, etc. It is like once you are broke, for example. So you should have 1 or 2 months of funds with you to survive there, to eat, to travel, to communicate, to travel to your university or anywhere. these kind of funds you should have with you handy, so that you do not end up taking credit, you do not end up calling your home. So these kind of emergency funds I was talking about.
Okay, so yes, there are a lot of questions you guys are asking. We are just picking them up. Don't worry, guys.
There's another question where a student is asking, what is usually the tendencies for the accommodation? So in Australia, usually it's semester-wise accommodations. So I think 90% of the accommodations, they have tendencies for 6 months and 12 months. In Australia, they have the tendencies as per the course, semester-wise. So if you're going in January or February, it's going to be till July, from Jan to July, and then for another semester. So there are 2 semesters. So accordingly, properties have also divided their tendencies. And also some students are asking, we want to book temporary for 2-3 months. Yes, there are some options which do allow temporary accommodation, but usually we recommend students to go for at least 1 semester accommodation, so that they're sorted for the initial period in the country. They don't have to struggle after every 2-3 months to find a different accommodation. Yes, we might find some properties which are flexible tenancies, but recommendation would still be to go with minimum 6 months contract.
Okay, guys, so before jumping to the next question, we are just running one poll. So please quickly answer it, right? So we can just understand you guys more better. So it is, are you looking for accommodation right now? So it's a good opportunity if it's yes or no. We have our accommodation expert here. We can ask them directly. We are waiting for 10 seconds.
Hoping to get 100% on yes.
Yeah.
I can see a lot of students are asking how to book accommodation, from where to book accommodation. So I think if you guys must be filling the details, and our host Abhishek will be able to take that details, and I'm sure we'll assign you an accommodation expert who will be assisting you with all your questions end to end. So don't worry about it. We'll help you with the entire process once we have your details, because depending on your requirements, we'll suggest different options. So cannot suggest few options here, but definitely we'll understand your requirements first and then suggest you some options.
Yes, sure, Sarbir. Thanks.
Okay, so I can see students are asking average price range in Adelaide. Okay, so Adelaide is not that expensive city, guys, if I'll compare it with Melbourne and Sydney. So Adelaide accommodation usually starts from somewhere around $250 a week, and it goes till $350 a week, depends on the location and the facilities. So 250 to 350 is usually the price range for Adelaide. There's another similar question for Sydney. Yes, average price range for Sydney. Okay, for Sydney, if I'll compare with the rest of the cities in Australia, it's most expensive city. So for Sydney, if you're planning to study there, and if you prefer to stay in CBD area, it's going to be somewhere around $450 to $500 a week. But if you wish to stay in suburbs, I'm sure there are other options which are available, which are located in suburbs. It's going to be somewhere around $350, $400 a week. So not that difference, being the most expensive city in Australia. But yeah, we can still, save $100 a week if we choose to stay in suburbs. But I think I have spoken to several students, and after speaking to them, I personally feel let's not stress enough to stay in suburbs and travel a lot, because I think you guys get a lot of work in universities and you have to focus on studies. So I think it's better to stay near the university, because it will save a lot of time. Sitting in your country right now thinks, okay, let's book something which is economical. But when you actually reach there, no, you regret, okay, I wish my accommodation was very close to the university. I would have saved a lot of time, and I would have used that time for my research, for my studies, and for my other activities. So do think a lot before taking any decision.
Right. So I guess we have got a lot of questions. Guys, if you have more questions, you can just put them on the chat room, right? It's the opportunity right now, so don't miss it and don't be shy.
Students are also asking, should I book my accommodation? I'm still waiting for COE. I would say book your accommodation when your university is finalized. And if for somebody who's asking, I'm not even applied for visa, should I book my accommodation? Yes to that person. So if you're waiting for your COE, wait for some time, get your offer letter from the university, and then book your accommodation, right? Because booking an accommodation is very related to which university you are going to. So location is important. So book your accommodation after getting the offer letter. And regarding visa, you can still book your accommodation before getting your visa, guys. There are a lot of properties in the market where they have proper policies in place, no visa, no pay policy. So you will not, waste your money, and it's little risk free. So don't worry about it. Visa is actually a later process. It takes some time, but accommodation needs to be done before visa. So yeah, I think you can still book your accommodation if you have finalized your university. Okay, so also students are asking about rental payments. Yes, it's a good question because we also get this question from a lot of students. Different properties have different rental payments, guys, and I would like to throw some light on how the payment works. So obviously it depends on the property to property, but I can give you a normal general insight on the accommodations. Usually these accommodations, they ask for 1 to 2 weeks of advance rent. And if you pay that amount, your accommodation is booked. So by paying 1 to 2 weeks of advance rent, accommodation is booked. And also in Australia, it is mandatory to pay 4 weeks of bond money, which goes to Australia government, right? And you get that 4 weeks back after your stay ends, right? So two things that you need to pay to finalize your accommodation. One is advance rent, which varies from 1 to 2 weeks. And then 4 weeks of bond money, which you get back after your stay ends. So this is how you book your accommodation initially. And payment frequency would be like, depends. But I think a majority of the properties I've seen, they are taking payments fortnightly. So twice a month, right? Their dates are fixed. Obviously, you'll get the contract before you sign up for a property. So go through that contract, read about it. But yeah, most of the properties, they're either taking fortnightly, and then there are some properties which take monthly installments. There are very few properties where I've seen they're taking the entire rent in one go. So you don't have to pay the entire rent in one go. And if usually, the properties do offer this, the entire rent in one go, but they give a huge discount. For example, 2% or 4% discount on the entire rent if you pay the rent in one go. So some properties might have this offer as well, but I think fortnightly and monthly are popular payment terms.
Okay, so Surbhi, if we are covering the properties and accommodation, I believe there are a lot of students those are looking for accommodations right now. So if you could please put some light on the budget, like the city wise, like what is the budget expectation should a student consider while they're planning their accommodations?
Right. Yes, I think students are asking the same on the live chat. So for Adelaide, I've mentioned 250 to 350 is fine. For Sydney, I've mentioned if you want to stay in the CBD area, it's going to be around $550 a week. Also, guys, most of the properties that I'm mentioning about, usually the properties include the rent, like include everything in the rent. All the bills are included. If we are specifically talking about on campus and off campus PBSAs, usually these student accommodations, the rent includes everything. And everything means electricity, water, gas, Wi-Fi. These things are included, so you don't have to incur these expensive monthly. So Adelaide, Sydney, I've covered. Melbourne is a little less expensive than Sydney, but again, second most expensive city in Australia. So Melbourne has different locations and different suburbs. For example, if you want to stay in city CBD area, it's going to be somewhere around $350 $400 a week. You'll find a nice place. But if you're staying in suburbs, quite far from there, so they have different locations. For example, there's Moorabbin, it's Burwood. We have the Monash University, which is a little far. There you still can find a place which is around $300 a week. But staying in city, $350 $400 a week for sure. Then Brisbane is not that expensive. Brisbane, I think you will get a place in around 250 to 350, similar like Adelaide. Brisbane is still fine. Then I think the cheapest city I would say is Perth. And but there's a lot of accommodation crisis going on in Perth, guys. Do read about it. I'm sure you'll understand. So anybody who is going to Perth, the upcoming session, book your accommodation right away. Don't even think about delaying the process, because there's a legit accommodation crisis going on in Perth, and we should not delay if you are specifically going to this city. Price range for Perth around, I think, $200 a week. The option starts, and if you want to stay very near to the university, it could be $300 a week as well. So it's not that expensive. Hope I've covered all the cities.
Yes,
Actually, one question, what is the amount of student loan available for students? I would say it is up to 50 lakhs when it covers your study cost, tuition, admission, your living expense, etc. Depending upon the interest rate, depending on every bank. So average, I would say 10 to 12% of the interest rate. So again, I would like to highlight, prefer government banks for taking loans first, and then you can switch. If not eligible or you do not get it, then turn on to the private banks, I would say.
great. Thanks, Naveen. Guys, so we have covered most of the questions. If you have more questions, we are going to run a survey, right? You can just fill it out and we'll just mail you out mail you out the answers of all the questions. And I would like to know, like, did you find this session helpful? So we are running a poll. You could give us rating and everything. So we will try to improve it and bring more such sessions in the future. Right. So we are waiting for 5 seconds more here to listen to hear from you all. Thank you, guys. Thanks for your support here. Right. Thank you, Surbhi. Thank you, Naveen, for this insightful session. I believe it has answered a lot of the questions of the students here, and it will be helpful for them. Right. So, guys, we are also going to launch a few more sessions in the future. Right. You can just recommend us what are your problems that you guys are facing. So we'll try to cover all these questions. And as Surbhi and Naveen has said, if you are facing any problem with the accommodation, you can just fill it, give your details to us in the survey form, and we'll try to get you in touch with Surbhi's team and Naveen's team so that they can just help you directly with the accommodation and your financial journey part. So great to have you, Surbhi. Great to have you, Naveen. Pleasure. And thank you, guys. So we are wrapping up here, and just let's wait for our next webinar. Thank you all.
Abhishek, thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.